Your brain is lying to you. It tells you to rest and scroll because it's programmed for survival, not success. If you want a life most people dream of, you have to stop being a slave to your own biology and start making your mind obey. Think of your brain as a hyperprotective, slightly overbearing parent. It's not actually trying to ruin your life, even if it feels that way when you're staring at your running shoes with a deep sense of dread. It's just operating on an ancient piece of software that hasn't had a meaningful update in about 50,000 years. Back then, comfort wasn't a luxury. It was a survival strategy. If you weren't burning calories or risking your neck against a predator, you were winning. Staying still meant staying alive. The problem is that we've carried that safety-first manual into a world where the greatest threats aren't saber-toothed tigers, but the stagnation of our own potential. This is the survival trap. It's the invisible magnetic field that pulls you back toward the couch the moment you think about doing something that matters. When you feel that internal resistance, that heavy, sluggish, not today feeling, that's just your brain doing its job. It sees your goal of starting a business or hitting the gym as a threat to your equilibrium. To your brain, change equals uncertainty, and uncertainty equals danger. So it deploys a sophisticated defense mechanism. It makes you soft. It whispers that you're tired, that you've done enough, or that the vibe just isn't right. It's a master of the reasonable excuse. It doesn't tell you to quit forever. It just suggests you wait until tomorrow, knowing full well that tomorrow is a mythical land where 99% of human ambition goes to die. We often mistake this resistance for a personality flaw. We think, I'm just lazy, or I don't have the willpower. But that's not it. You're navigating a biological glitch. Your brain is trying to keep you in the safe zone, a cozy little bubble where nothing hurts, but nothing grows either. In this zone, you become a spectator of your own life. You consume other people's successes on a screen because it's a low-risk way to feel a spark of excitement without actually having to put your own skin in the game. The trap is designed to be comfortable. It's lined with velvet and high-speed internet. But the longer you sit in it, the harder the walls become. Every time you listen to the voice that says just one more episode, you're reinforcing the idea that your brain is the boss and you're just the passenger. You're training your nervous system to believe that discomfort is a signal to retreat rather than a signal to advance. Breaking out of the survival trap starts with a simple, breezy realization. You don't have to believe everything you think. That feeling of hesitation isn't a wall, it's just a ghost. It's a relic of a primitive past that doesn't realize you're perfectly safe. The moment you stop treating your brain's protection as an absolute truth is the moment the door to the trap starts to creak open. You aren't fighting a monster, you're just outgrowing a very old, very scared version of yourself. Once you realize your brain is essentially a well-meaning but misguided bodyguard, you have to stop arguing with it and start changing the rules of the game. We've been conditioned to believe that we should only act when we feel inspired or ready. But waiting for a feeling is a losing strategy. If you wait until you feel like doing something difficult, you'll be waiting in the lobby of your own life forever. To get moving, you have to engage in a bit of internal alchemy. You have to rewrite the comfort code. Think about how we usually define comfort. It's the absence of tension. It's the warm shower, the soft bed, the easy yes. We've been taught to move toward these things and away from anything that makes our heart rate spike or our palms sweat. But if you want to grow, you have to flip that script. You have to start seeing that at ease feeling as a red flag. When things are too comfortable for too long, it's usually a sign that you're plateauing. You aren't learning anything new. You aren't testing your limits, and you certainly aren't evolving. Rewriting the code means training yourself to view discomfort not as a stop sign, but as a keep going sign. Imagine you're learning a new language or a new skill. That moment where your brain feels like it's overheating? That's not failure. That's the feeling of new neural pathways being paved. When you're at the gym and that last rep feels like it's going to break you? That's the exact moment the muscle actually begins to change. In the old code, that feeling meant quit. In the new code, that feeling means this is where the magic happens. It's a bit like adjusting to a cold pool. The first few seconds are a shock to the system, and every fiber of your being wants to climb back out onto the warm towel. But if you stay still and breathe through it, your internal thermostat resets. The water hasn't changed, but you have. You've expanded your capacity to handle the chill. Life works the exact same way. By intentionally stepping into situations that make you slightly uneasy, you're resetting your baseline. You're teaching your brain that you can handle the cold of effort, rejection, or hard work without breaking. This isn't about being a masochist or seeking out suffering for no reason. It's about being a strategist. It's about recognizing that the easy way is actually a very expensive debt you're taking out against your future self. Every time you choose the easy path, you're paying for a moment of peace with a lifetime of what-ifs. By rewriting the code, you start to realize that the most rewarding version of your life exists on the other side of the things you're currently trying to avoid. When you start to crave the resistance, the game changes completely. You stop looking for the shortcut and start looking for the incline. You begin to take a strange, quiet pride in doing the things that make other people hesitate. You realize that feeling ready is a myth, but doing it anyway is a superpower. You aren't just changing your schedule, you're changing the very definition of what it means to feel good. You're finding a deeper, more sustainable kind of satisfaction. The kind that only comes from knowing you didn't let your primitive brain call the shots. You're no longer seeking the shade, you're learning to love the sun. Most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they don't have a system. That's exactly why I created the 30-Day Discipline Reset, a practical step-by-step roadmap designed to help you build discipline, reset your mindset, and create habits that actually stick. No complicated routines, no overwhelm, just a clear system you can follow every day. If you're ready to take control of your life, check out the link below and start your transformation today. So, you've realized the trap exists and you've decided to rewrite the code. But here's the reality. Even with a new mindset, that split second of hesitation is still going to show up. It's that tiny, flickering gap between the moment you think, I should probably do this, and the moment your brain rushes in with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't. That gap is where dreams go to die. It's the decision danger zone. To survive it, you need a tactical weapon, a way to bypass the logic of your primitive mind entirely. Enter the 3-second rule. Think of this as a manual override for your consciousness. Most of us treat our thoughts like a democratic debate. We have an idea, then we let our brain argue against it, then we weigh the pros and cons, and by the time the meeting is over, we're still sitting on the couch. The 3-second rule ends the debate before the brain can even find its notes. It's remarkably simple. From the moment you have an impulse to act on a goal, you have a 3-second window to physically move before your brain kills the idea. 3, 2, 1, go. It sounds almost too simple to be effective, but the science behind it is profound. When you use a countdown, you shift the gears in your head from the feeling part of your brain to the acting part. You're interrupting the loop of overthinking. You aren't giving your inner protective parent enough time to start its lecture about how cold it is outside or how much your legs ache. You are effectively outrunning your own shadow. Imagine your alarm goes off at 5 a.m. In that first second, you're aware you need to get up. In the second second, your brain starts calculating how much more sleep you could get if you skipped the first half of your workout. In the third second, it's reminding you that it's raining. If you hit second 4, you're staying in bed. But if you hit 1 inch and physically throw the covers off your body, you've won. The brain is remarkably bad at arguing with a body that is already in motion. Once you're standing up, the hardest part of the battle is already over. This works for everything. See someone you want to talk to but feel that wave of social anxiety? 3, 2, 1, walk over. Have a difficult email you've been putting off? 3, 2, 1, open the draft. The goal isn't to feel confident or prepared. The goal is to kill the hesitation. Hesitation is the enemy of transformation because it feeds the survival trap we talked about earlier. Every time you hesitate, you are sending a signal to your nervous system that the task ahead is dangerous. By moving immediately, you're teaching your brain that you are safe and that you are in control. It's like being a pilot. Before a jet takes off, there is a sequence. There is no room for, I don't really feel like flying today. There is only the protocol. By adopting a 3-second kill switch, you are creating a personal protocol for excellence. You stop being a victim of your moods and start being a product of your decisions. The beauty of this approach is that it's light. You don't need a deep meditation session or a motivational speech to get started. You just need to be able to count backward. You're stripping away the drama of doing the hard thing and turning it into a mechanical reflex. You're becoming a person of action, not because you've lost your fear, but because you've learned to move faster than it. You're no longer waiting for the green light. You're the one pressing the accelerator. If the 3-second rule is your tactical weapon for winning individual battles, then small daily defiances are your long-term training camp. You see, you can't expect to win a heavyweight championship if you've never even stepped into a ring. Most people fail at their big goals because they try to summon massive amounts of willpower out of thin air once every 6 months. But willpower is a muscle, and if you only use it for emergencies, it's going to be weak when you need it most. To truly own your mind, you have to pick a fight with it every single day. This isn't about grand gestures or life-altering shifts. It's about the discomfort ritual, a series of tiny, intentional acts of war against your own desire for ease. It's about looking at your daily routine and finding the spots where you usually choose the path of least resistance and then deliberately choosing the other one. Not because you have to, but because doing so sends a message to your subconscious. I am the one who decides. Take the morning shower, for example. Your brain wants that steam, that warmth, that cozy cocoon of water. It's the ultimate comfort zone. But when you reach for that handle and turn it all the way to the cold side for the last 30 seconds, you aren't just getting a health boost. You are performing a small act of defiance. Your brain is screaming, "Turn it back," and you are calmly saying, "No." In that moment, you are training your brain to submit to your will. You are teaching it that its emergency alerts are no longer in charge of your hands. Think of these moments as micro doses of adversity. Maybe it's choosing to walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Maybe it's putting your phone in another room for an hour of deep work when you're dying to check your notifications. Maybe it's doing 20 push-ups right when you feel that mid-afternoon slump instead of reaching for a sugary snack. On their own, these actions won't change your life. But collectively, they are a wrecking ball to your weakness. Each small defiance is a punch to the version of you that wants to stay soft and silent. When you speak up in a meeting despite that little knot of anxiety in your chest, you've won a round. When you lace up your shoes and walk for 10 minutes in the wind, you've won another. You are building a track record of winning. Most people have spent years building a track record of listening to their excuses. They've become experts at negotiating with themselves. By practicing daily discomfort, you are ending the negotiations. This breezy, consistent approach takes the pressure off perfection. You aren't trying to be a superhero. You're just being a person who is slightly more disciplined than they were yesterday. It's about the cumulative power of being 1% more defiant every day. When the big challenges eventually come, the career pivots, the personal losses, the massive projects, you won't panic. Why? Because you've been training for this. You've already faced the cold shower, the extra mile, and the resisted distraction. Your brain knows the drill. It knows that when things get hard, you don't back down. You lean in. You're creating a war mode that is quiet, sustainable, and surprisingly light. It doesn't feel like a heavy burden when it's just a series of small choices. It feels like a game. You start to look for these little pockets of resistance throughout your day, almost like a scavenger hunt for growth. You realize that every moment of minor discomfort is actually an opportunity to reclaim a piece of your freedom. You aren't just checking off a to-do list. You're conducting a daily symphony of self-mastery. We've arrived at the final stage of the journey, where the tactics and the rituals stop being things you do and start being who you are. This is the ultimate objective: identity under pressure. Throughout this process, you haven't just been trying to finish a workout or beat a deadline. You've been conducting a quiet, steady experiment in self-evolution. You are moving away from being a person who struggles with discipline and toward becoming a person who thrives on it. You are becoming the machine. When people hear the word machine, they often think of something cold or unfeeling. But in this context, becoming a machine means reaching a level of internal consistency where your actions are no longer up for debate. A machine doesn't wake up and wonder if it's in the mood to function. It doesn't check the weather to see if it should perform its task. It simply executes. For you, this means reaching a point where doing the hard thing is your default setting. You've rewired your identity so deeply that acting with hesitation would actually feel more uncomfortable than acting with purpose. This shift happens when you stop focusing on the goal and start focusing on the person who achieves the goal. Most people say, "I want to lose 20 pounds." A person who has become the machine says, "I am the type of person who never misses a workout." The difference is subtle but massive. When you focus on the weight, your brain can negotiate with you. It can say, "We can lose that weight later." But when you focus on your identity, the negotiation ends. You don't skip the gym because that's not what your new version does. It's simply not an option in your current operating system. Think about how much energy you used to waste just trying to decide whether or not to be productive. You'd spend an hour thinking about working, 30 minutes feeling guilty about not working, and another hour preparing to work. That's an incredible amount of mental battery life drained by indecision. When you become the machine, you reclaim all that energy because the decision has already been made, weeks, months, or years ago. You can use all that extra focus to actually do the work. You aren't fighting yourself anymore. You're just moving. This is the version of you that thrives when the pressure turns up. Most people crumble when things get chaotic because their safe zone is their only reference point. But you've spent your time practicing small defiances and counting down from 3 in the face of fear. You've built a high-performance engine in the middle of a storm. When life hits you with a real challenge, you don't have to scramble for a new strategy. You just keep doing what you've been trained to do. You stay light, you stay breezy, and you stay in motion. Tell your brain, I am not the person I used to be. I am not the slave to my comfort or the victim of my impulses. That old version of you, the one that lived in the survival trap, has been phased out. You've replaced it with a version that finds peace in the resistance and clarity in the effort. You aren't just completing tasks, you're reinforcing a new reality. The war with your own mind ends today, not because the mind stopped trying to protect you, but because you've finally taken the wheel. You've learned to listen to the whisper of your potential rather than the scream of your survival instinct. Now, go out there and prove it. Do the hard thing, and then do it again tomorrow. You aren't just changing your habits, you're claiming your life. You've obeyed your brain long enough. It's time for your brain to start obeying you.